Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing this morning?
No, just an Amazon.
That morsel of a rom-com. What a treat. My name is Dina Ray Ramos. I'm here with Glad. And I want to introduce the wonderful filmmakers and star of this film, Red, White, and Royal Blue. First, we have Greg Berlanti, producer. We have Sarah Schechter, producer as well. And finally, and last but not least, we have star Taylor Zakhar Perez. I know. Listen, I try my best. You know, that's why they pay me the medium bucks. First off, you know, I just want to start off by asking, like, how familiar were y'all with the book? Like, how long had it been in your orbit? I guess this is more for Greg and Sarah. How long had it been in your orbit before you decided to, like, be all, hey, this needs to be something that is a movie?
About 2 minutes.
Okay.
In fact, Mike McGrath, who's here, who's our EVP, was the first to read it, and he immediately kind of ran down to my office and was like, it's kind of smutty, but it's really good.
Listen, smut sells.
Yeah, no, it's a hard book to pitch to your boss, you know, but he immediately saw the value, and then so did we, and, you know, fell in love with it. And a lot of people did when the galleys came out, and so there was a real frenzy to sort of get the rights, and Amazon was amazing. They flew to Colorado to meet with Casey and really worked very hard to secure the book for us to
And Taylor, how familiar were you with the book before kind of you signed on the project?
I got a tip early on, and they said they're going to start casting this project. Maybe read the book. And so I read it, and I was like sobbing on the airplane to New York. I was like, okay, I think that might do something.
Yeah, I mean, like, the movie definitely, like, for me, is giving very Chasing Liberty, very What a Girl Wants, very, like, Princess, you know, Diaries, this, but very queer, you know, hella gay. And I was just, you know, very excited to see this kind of story on screen. I mean, for Taylor, that, you know, this book is, you know, beloved. Like, I honestly, like, first knew the movie and I was like, oh, it's based on the book, but then I heard the fan base of the book and, like, everyone's, oh, I love the book. So for you, and for even, like, you know, working with Nicholas, and, you know, how was it like navigating a character that's so beloved and, like, kind of doing justice, and but also making sure you put your stamp on it?
Yeah, that was tough, because once the script is written, that kind of becomes Bible. Though you have lots of different thoughts about the book, that was your first reaction, that you just have to go, okay, do I forget all of that? But there's still, like, Matthew did such a great job at adapting the screenplay, and it was less of a like recitation and more of an adaptation. I think it's just, like, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and when Peeves the Poltergeist was left out from the first movie, I was freaking out. I was like, okay, you can't have this movie without Peeves. And then I saw the movie and I said, okay, we don't need Peeves, and we never saw him for, what, 8 movies? 7 movies? And it was fine.
Come on, Harry Potter.
And so, I mean, that did happen with, what's my sister's name? June, R.I.P. But it's okay, like, you know, we didn't need her. Like, I think. Sorry, I'm on a tangent.
I'm gonna stop you before you get yourself. We all love June, but
we do.
But to get the book down into 2 hours was hard. But I'll say, like, you know, Matthew had a lot of respect for the book, and really approached it as a fan, as did all of us. And then I think, you know, Taylor and Nick, you guys both really, like, Nick had a dog-eared copy of the book. I think it's an amazing resource to have when you're making a movie, to have this sort of truly like the Bible of the story.
Yeah.
When did you shoot this? Was it during the COVID years?
It was so COVID.
Oh,
Dang, this was so queer. This was so COVID.
that's so queer. That's so COVID. And how was that like for you? I know we don't like revisiting that era, but just to create something during that era, something especially as representative of the queer community, as something we've never seen before. How was it like shooting in COVID and also kind of just doing the best that you can with what you were allowed to do?
I mean, because it's PG, I could talk about like it was a scheduling nightmare. A lot of people got sick. We had by halfway through our most expensive location, our DP was in a tent outside of the location because he was still testing positive. I've never sent and received so many pictures of COVID tests. We're like, the line's getting fainter. Do you think we can work tomorrow? And so I missed Coldplay in Paris. There was a lot of sacrifices.
Adele was
yeah.
was in the
movie?
No, it was in High.
we had to fire her. Really had to fire her.
But it was a challenge. But I think Matthew also did it. Was really because he comes from theater, wanted to do a lot of rehearsal, and I think that allowed Nick and Taylor particularly, but also like you spent time with all the actors that you had to have these intimate relationships with, and were able to really like sort of be without mask and really kind of in the same space.
Well, I got sick first.
He did before we even started.
Like week 1.
It was week 0.
I was like, this is great. I was like, I had a great summer. I'm not gonna get sick again. I'm gonna go to Paris and I'm gonna go to Italy. I'm just gonna go around Europe on the weekends. And then I was locked down, even though I was fine for the rest of the summer.
Yes, of course, Taylor had no symptoms.
I would have just locked in my apartment.
Well, and also around when it was released, the strikes happened. It just seems like everything was working against you. But especially for Taylor, I remember. I'm glad we did talk to Matt during when it was released because he was allowed to. But how was it like for you, Taylor, to kind of like see this be released, but also kind of not being able to do anything, unfortunately?
Yeah, it was tough. I was just telling Greg and Sarah before we walked in here that I've never had an actual premiere for a project that I've done. Because I cried for it, right?
This is your premiere.
I mean that's I guess the fun part that everyone looks forward to, and I haven't had to have that experience yet because I had a film come out in 2021 and 2022, both in the COVID era, and then this film came out, and we couldn't say anything about it. And so yeah, it was tough because you want to bring your baby into this world and celebrate it, and luckily, Amazon just knocked it out of the park, and the fans loved it, and it kind of just spoke for itself.
And then when it came to actual, when it came to the casting, I mean, I think, wonderful cast, but, as a gay boy, a Gen X gay boy, Uma Thurman, listen, seeing her as president, and I'm from Texas, it's like, okay, listen, the accent, I was like, okay, but I was just like, also like, oh, that's cool.
She's the bride.
She's a bride, she's everything, but how, especially starting with Uma and just like kind of getting this cast together, and for Taylor just like kind of creating this relationship with a mother and a son who is about to come out, the mother is president. First off, how was the casting, I guess much more for producers, and for Taylor, how was it like for you just to kind of develop this relationship with him?
I met Uma the day we did our first scene together. And so I wasn't lucky enough to, I got to do scenes with Anish, with Nicholas, with Rachel, and then Uma was coming in from another project, and I found out she was doing her accent, I want to say 2 days before principal photography started. And I said, okay, gotta make a decision here. To do one, to not do one, and we just had lots of conversations with producers and with Matthew to just kind of shy away from it because I felt like Alex was a bit more of a chameleon than Uma was. But in real life, as an actress, Uma is such a chameleon. Just the amount of projects that she does, that she gets to really embody character, and you kind of lose her in it. And from the moment we met, I think she would just shake my hand, and I'm like, I need a hug. I need to like touch you. If you're my mom, like we need to have a moment because this is a nice scene we're doing. And actually, this scene didn't make it in the movie. This was the Shahi, Clifton, and me scene in the living room. It never made it. Maybe we needed a little time to bond. It was great. And we had.
There were no cameras.
There were no cameras rolling. But it was. I was very lucky to have Uma on set. She kind of anchored set. She's just badass. Comes to work. There's no messing around. But in a fun way. She's freaking
I love Uma. She was great. She immediately sort of understood because I think when you're trying to tell a story that's at once sort of commercial and accessible, but it's about something, and I think she carries a lot of the message of the movie in her scenes, and I think she took that responsibility seriously. And it was just great to have her come in, and she had actually played Nick's mom in a different project, so now she's been everyone's mom.
I think the other thing I would say is that she was aware of is that when you're doing anything that's LGBTQ, you're really trying to get people that just give it more awareness. And it means a lot when an actor of her stature is like, I want to bring awareness to this. I know how important the book is, I know how important the role is, and she threw her hat in the ring. She really, really wanted to do it, in part for those reasons, I think.
Yeah, and I think you really see it in the coming out scene, because the coming out scene, I feel like by now is this thing in like movies and TV where it's like, okay, coming out, whatever. But I feel like there's a certain generation of queer kids who are scared of that coming out scene. It's like, so what a relief it was to see the President of the United States, just be very open. Like when the son was like, I may be bi or gay, she was all, get a pizza, we're gonna talk. I was like, imagine if all parents were like that. Yeah.
And Greg made a movie, Love, Simon.
Yes, Love, Simon.
But I think like these scenes that for some people that live in Los Angeles or in these sort of like liberal circles seem like, I've seen that. There are so many kids that not only haven't seen that and haven't experienced it, and the joy and the acceptance and the like life affirming of seeing like a parent accept you, because it's not an experience that every kid has. But I also think it's important for parents. I think to see like what an appropriate response is, because a lot of people are just unprepared for these kind of conversations, and so I think that's part of what's exciting about this movie. It's really accessible, it's candy coated, it's bright, it's fun, it's silly, but it's really trying to spread love and acceptance and the idea that people can forge their own paths. So I think sometimes people criticize things for being too kind of like, we're past that. Not everyone's past it, and there's still kids killing themselves because they don't think they'll ever be loved. And so to be able to reflect love to them and to show them that it's possible, I think is still really important and worthwhile.
I really love what you said, because I think it's not so often we see queer joy, and especially in a movie like this that reaches, that's just not like an independent film, because like you said, it's like we in LA and New York, we live in this bubble, and sometimes we forget the flyover states. There's a kid who's in the Midwest who is scared shitless to come out to his parents, and like for them to see this, I think is kind of like a hope, like beacon of hope for them, and I just really appreciated that. But we are like going back to the representation of it all. We are in this interesting time of queer representation. There's a lot of it, but how do you feel like this is for everyone? How do you feel like Red, White, and Royal Blue speaks to where we're at right now when it comes to LGBTQ representation in film and TV and entertainment?
Greg has been at the forefront of it.
Yes, Greg.
For a while now.
Greg has been in front lines.
Yeah.
Well, I just feel like there's still so much. I think you brought up a good point about the joy of it. I think that's so often in this bubble in the city, you can feel like, that's been done, or maybe that feels retro, or that feels dated. But actually, it was really interesting because we were on the book so early, to see the wave of popularity that the book was getting and why. And it was a real compass, I think, for Matthew and for everybody that was on the ground making it, was that it was just so exuberant. And so it both fit something in the lexicon of queer film, but also it fits something that the world needs right now. And it's nice when those two things sort of converge. I just think that there's a lot more doors and a lot more things that are open, but you'd be surprised how much you still have to fight for and advocate for all of it, and how at the end of the day, different people at different moments can be tentative about this or that. And I think that it sort of feels like it's just a new beginning of a new wave of stuff. And I hope that all the young people that are watching this will look at movies like this or Simon and other things in 10 years and think, okay, that's so dated now. Now we want to move on to these issues or cover these topics. And that's usually what happens. And that's like the growth of all of it.
Unless you make a movie about abortion, because then it's evergreen. But I think it is worth saying too, Amazon really stepped up. They stepped up to get the book before it was popular, but more than that, they supported this movie. A lot of times when you're making movies about young people or you're making movies about queer subjects, it sort of gets put in a corner and put in a budget box and put in a sort of marketing spotlight. And Amazon from day one just treated this movie, and like Brianna O, who's here, who's our executive on it, like understood immediately and fought for it. And it wasn't, and there was a lot of like straight women involved in making this movie who really, that's what we all kind of have to do for each other. But Amazon always treated this movie like it was a big budget romantic comedy. And there was no, obviously it has queer issues in it, but it's just like a joyful romantic comedy with great popsicles, right? These are two people that have like really good reasons why it's hard for them to be together. And that's just fun. And so I just think the fact that they made this a mainstream movie and their support, the way they saw it from the jump and the way they released it, the way they're supporting it now is just something to, because it's not always easy to get these kind of movies made. And so they really were so supportive from the very beginning and seeing it as like a broad appeal movie, which I think it is every time I've seen it with an audience. That's my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Clap now.
Stop clapping.
No, I think this is definitely one of those movies where if it's on, I will watch it. Like, or if it's on the plane, I will watch it because it goes back to, I say, like, if this film was released during that time, or it should have been released during that time of, like, First Daughter, and, like, it's kind of like something that I never saw, and that's kind of why I appreciated this so much, because it is candy-coated, but it's also, like, why not? You know, we need some sweetness in our life. We have time. We're going to go to the audience. Ask a good question or else.
I read the book this year. I didn't know it existed before this. And you guys did a great job. I mean, that's a good